running the ball 46 times for 236 yards, 6 quarterback sacks. They give up a meaningless touchdown. They beat Jared Goff like a drum. I mean, it was embarrassing for Goff.
Welcome in, everybody, to the live post-game show. Marc Farzetta, Derrick Gunn, Devan Kaney with you. Welcome in, everyone, on 6abc.com, as well as the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. Let's start it out with a classic Eagles chant. P-H-O-T-O-S-Y-N-T-H-E-S-I-S. Photosynthesis.
Wow.
Yeah!
That was good spelling. I didn't know
you.
where you were going with that one, but that was good. That was good
Photosynthesis, though some people might know it, who are in the horticulture field, as I once was many years ago as a landscaper. Anyway, folks, the best Eagles win of the season, the most convincing Eagles win of the season, the worst Lions loss of the season, and they're 0-8, and that's saying something. Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers, Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens, they can only dream of beating the Lions as good as Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts did today. So there you go. Yeah, it's the Lions. I still don't think that the Eagles are a good football team, but I just say, can we all agree on one thing? Everything we say of a positive manner on this show, it's with the parentheses, it's in the parentheses there of it's the Lions, right? Can we just so when people say, hey, it's the Lions. So just so when we say something positive and happy, right? Like enjoying an Eagles win, just be like, oh, it's still the Lions. Like we all understand. And we all agreeing on that. Is that good?
Yes.
Sure.
So we don't have to say it throughout the entire show. Well, I know it's the Lions, but just assume that we're saying that before we say what we're going to say. It's
like when people say barring injury. Oh, really? Thank you. That was barring injury. But no, let's look at this. Eagles run the ball over 40 times in this game. They throw the ball not even 20 times in this game, and they're able to beat the Lions. I mean, look, all I'm taking away from this was you did exactly what you were supposed to do against the worst team in the NFL. So congratulations on not being or being beaten by the worst team in the NFL. You did exactly what you were supposed to do in this game. You obviously came into it knowing you could run the football down their throats, and you did just that. So that was great to see. Jalen Hurts was barely called upon in this game to make a huge play for the Eagles. I feel like every game we've watched up to this point has been Jalen Hurts, go make a play, and then we'll see what the offense can do with that. But this was all about the offensive line. It was all about the running backs. Boston Scott looked good. You saw Jordan Howard get in there and look good. Kenny Gainwell came in and made some nice plays for you. I mean, all in all, it was a very good offensive game for the Philadelphia Eagles, and a game I think you could take a couple of things away from, most notably the run game, and apply it down the line to maybe the Chargers next week. But as of right now, I'm looking at this and I'm saying, job well done. You did what you're supposed to do. Good job by the Philadelphia Eagles and Nick Sirianni in this game in particular there, Gunner.
It's nice to hear joy in your voice again, Mark, because it's been a long time since we could say that.
Yeah.
I'm going to use a word today I never thought I'd use this season pertaining to the Philadelphia Eagles, and that word is flawless, because they were flawless on both sides of the football. Running the ball 46 times for 236 yards, 6 quarterback sacks. They give up a meaningless touchdown. They beat Jared Goff like a drum. I mean, it was embarrassing for Goff. You know, we talk about, man, we got to cover the Eagles. Thank goodness we don't have to cover the Detroit Lions, man. I mean, it would be depressing. I'd probably give up covering football if I had to cover the Detroit Lions. But this. Look at this as a feel-good, get-well type of game for this team. They had taken so much verbal abuse from the media, from the fan base. It didn't help the situation when Nick Sirianni came out talking about fertilizers and roots and budding flower and things like that. And, man, did the media and the fan base pile on when he mentioned that on Wednesday. But they came out and they smoked this team the way they're supposed to. And they ran the ball the first series. I'm thinking, please don't abandon the run like you did last week. Please don't do it. And they kept running, and they kept running. The only thing I'm sitting there watching them run the ball up and down the field, I'm thinking, I wonder how Miles Sanders feels right now.
I know. Yeah.
He's not going to be able to play for another 2 games after this, and maybe longer, depending on that ankle. But the bottom line is, and I said this throughout the course of the week leading up to this game, I don't care how they do it, long as they win this game, because I didn't even want to think about them losing this game and then having to come back home bruised and battered to play a Chargers team in front of their home crowd, and the crowd turning on them immediately instead of giving them the benefit of the doubt. So it's nice to sit here and talk about an Eagles win and to talk about all the positives they achieved in this particular game. And there's really no negatives in this game, from the play calling to the running to defending to chewing up the clock to a guy coming off the practice squad, a proven player like a Jordan Howard, scoring 2 touchdowns. Boston Scott, who'd been nowhere to be found most of the season, scoring 2 touchdowns. I mean, and Darius Slay going back to Detroit and scoring a touchdown. I mean, what more could you couldn't have written a better script for this game for the visiting team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, guys, it's Halloween. We haven't touched on that. I know, a lot of people are dressing up, and we don't look like we're dressed up, but I am dressed up as myself, and that is a dumb Eagles fan who's about to invest in Miracle Grow. I gave Nick Sirianni, we all did, so much crap for that speech. It was a little bit over the top, a touch over the top. But you know what? Miracle Grow works. Botany works, apparently. So, I take back what I said, at least about him this week. This game was a must win for the team, for the players, for myself, for the entire city of Philadelphia's mental health and morale around this team. I mean, Devan, you mentioned Marc being happy today. I love to see you guys smiling. We were in a dark place last week and the last few weeks. So this was definitely necessary. I know we said that we're not going to say this, it's just Detroit. And that's true. Detroit is not a good football team. But my thing is, has any other team blown out Detroit this much? I know leading up to this game, half the people were saying that we were going to lose because Detroit has had very close games, as we've mentioned time and time again. Gardner Minshew went in by the end of the game. So I'm confused. I don't know if you guys feel the same. I'm very confused. I don't know what went and what changed. Devan, you say it's flawless, but why? How? Was something different? Was it the Miracle Grow? I don't know. So I'm curious to get your thoughts on that throughout the show.
I don't think it was Miracle Grow. I think it's finally Nick Sirianni analyzing the situation as the game unfolded and analyzing it properly and realizing that his offensive line was much stronger than Detroit's defensive front 7, and that the easiest route to success was to keep pounding the football until Detroit made you throw the football, and they never really did. It's not often you see any team in the National Football League run the ball 46 times in a game and chew up 236 yards in the ground at any opponent, even a bad opponent. But everything fell into place for this Eagles team today. And again, I can't emphasize enough throughout the course of this show, this is something that they desperately needed. They needed something like this to get that dark cloud from over their heads, if only for a moment. And when I say a moment, if only for a week, to get that dark cloud from over their head, to get back in that feel-good mode, to go in that building on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and feel good about what they accomplished, coming off something positive they accomplished. We heard Fletcher Cox speak out after that Raiders game about, this is not what I do. This is not how I'm effective. And you wonder, when a prominent player like that starts speaking out, how long will it be before others follow? Because that other players basically felt what Fletcher was saying, but weren't going to speak up the way Fletcher did. And that could indeed have an adverse effect if it continued to snowball downward. It messes with morale. It messes with chemistry. Guys start looking around and finger pointing and things like that. So we don't have to worry about that this week. Now let's see if Jonathan Gannon and Nick Sirianni and this coaching squad can build on an extremely positive situation moving forward from here.
Oh, yeah. But that's where I have my doubts. But let's stick in the positive realm.
Come on, Mark.
When you said it was like flawless and it was perfect, there was one thing that happened earlier. We won't get into it right now, but there's one thing that happened earlier that I went, "What are you doing?" And then it was 0-0 at that point. So I was still on edge. But I did pick the Eagles to win. I did not pick them to win with a 41 points on the board there. But I did pick them to win barely, but I picked them to win. But the one thing I want to see is hopefully a commitment to a more balanced attack. And I know that might be the most basic thing we could talk about after something like this. You're not going to be able to run the football on every team across the NFL the way the Eagles did today. And I even felt like, especially in the second half of this game, it was almost like mercy running. Like you weren't trying to run up the score on the Detroit Lions. You were running the football to kill the clock, and also you were having success doing it. So there was no reason to really not run the football. But on the other side of this, I can't go back to this point enough, and I'm going to make it over the next 2 hours. You're talking about a game where you didn't say to Jalen Hurts, "Go win us this game." You did not say that. You said to the run game, you said to the offensive line, "Go win us this game. We're going to invest heavily in you throughout this with the amount of run plays we're going to have. 2 running backs, not just Jalen Hurts scrambles for 10 yards, 15 yards, whatever it might be. But this is going to be a game where we're going to be committed to running the football with our running backs because we know we could get away with it with the matchup we have with our offensive line and your defensive line." And let's not forget that Jack Driscoll, who was starting as your right guard in this game, leaves the game a couple of plays into it. Nate Herbig has to come back in. So again, you're down another offensive line starter, quote unquote, at least in the post Brandon Brooks injury starter. So your offensive line is banged up again, yet you were still running the football as well as you could. This is a game where you could take away that philosophy and use it against the Chargers and use it as the season goes on against the Saints. And then again, also against the rest of the NFC East when you play them in December. So this is all something that you could take away as a positive. What's the word? Extrapolate and apply it later in the season. Other than that, I like the idea that you took that weight off of Jalen Hurts' shoulders. I love the idea that Boston Scott was in this game, albeit because of injury. He is a good running back. And for the life of me, it's not like Kenny Gainwell was some top 10 or even a first-round pick that you had, or maybe even a second-round pick that you had to insert into your offense and you had to make sure you used. I still couldn't figure out why he was getting reps over Boston Scott when Boston Scott is a proven commodity. And he went out there again when called upon and ran the football extremely well to the tune of 2 touchdowns and was very consistent throughout this game. One thing I'm kind of pleasantly surprised by was I don't think you saw one attempt at a screen to Boston Scott. I thought this was going to be a game if Boston Scott was going to be in it. Nick Sirianni would be happy-go-lucky, screens all the live long day. But he didn't do that in this game. He just was very simple, run between the tackles. You saw one really creative play with that play, too. I think it was Gainwell who ended up throwing the ball back to Jalen Hurts, who found Dallas Goedert down the field, I believe, in the third quarter of this game. So you saw some creativity in this offensive game plan, but then again, you saw mostly just the old-fashioned ground and pound. And we haven't even touched on the defense yet. Jonathan Gannon flipped the switch as well. I saw 3 different blitzes, 2 of them by linebacker Alex Singleton. I think another one was by I forget who it was. I think the safety came. It might have been Epps getting into the backfield in the other one. But you actually saw 3 separate blitzes by Jonathan Gannon's defense. So all in all, whatever they did, aside from just scouting the Detroit Lions and saying that they're a bad football team, they dialed up blitzes. They ran the football extremely well, and they basically sat back and let the game come to them. Nothing felt forced in this game. And I'd love to see the Eagles that comfortable next week against the LA Chargers, and we'll cross our fingers for that.
I think the biggest thing was their ability to blitz was based on the fact that they didn't have to worry about Detroit's wide receivers. You look at every other team they have faced this year, they've faced upper echelon type wide receivers, guys who are speed merchants who can, if they find a seam, they can hit it, and take it to the house. Detroit does not have that wealth of talent. They have TJ Hawkinson, they have DeAndre Smith, and their other running back, Jamal Williams, didn't play today. So they were very limited in terms of what they could do. Plus, they were beat up along the offensive line as well. That's not an excuse because the Eagles have been beat up all season long. But, whoever did their homework on this Detroit team did a very thorough job in terms of what you can attack and what you can take away. And because they had 2 corners who would rather play man-to-man instead of sitting back playing a zone, it allowed, guys like Marcus Epps, Kavon Wallace, Davion Taylor, guys like that to be more assertive and to attack the quarterback more. Now, that method is not going to apply against other quarterbacks. You got a Justin Herbert coming up, down the road. So, that may not apply. I hope Jonathan Gannon doesn't go back to what we had to watch the previous 7 games based out of fear, but it worked today against this particular team. Jared Goff is not the most mobile quarterback. And if you looked at the body expression of Jared Goff throughout this game, you can tell he was defeated by the end of the first quarter in a lot of ways. And by the fourth quarter, him and that offense were mentally checked out of the game, basically. They were just trying to get off the field without getting anybody severely injured. So the Eagles pounded this team in submission. This game was over basically at halftime with the way they performed today. And they came out, basically all they did was chew up the clock. I mean, think about it. This game started a little after 1 p.m. It was over by like 3:51. Most games go like 3 hours, 15, 20 minutes, on a good day. This game was done in less than 3 hours.
Yeah.
So basically the Eagles just kept the clock moving, pounded away at them, kept putting points on the board, and just beat Detroit into submission.
Devin, you hear this? Gunner is happy he's going to be able to go out there and go trick-or-treating. So that's cool.
Yeah.
Or go outside grilling.
Yeah, I was going to say.
If it stops raining.
Instead of handing out candy, do you just hand out like grilled meats and barbecue stuff?
Oh, yeah. Ribs, chicken legs, my wings. Yeah, might throw a burger here and there, a little cheeseburger. Yeah. I got all 4 grills going right now. You guys don't even know it.
I'm going to show up at your house in my Ghostbusters outfit just so I can get myself some chicken wings off or David, how'd you put it? Just some meats, some fine grilled meats?
Some meats, yeah. Some grilled meats,
Some meats. Jeez.
Thanks, Mr. Gunn. All right.
You can tell us Halloween. We're out of control already. We've just started.
Yeah, you ain't kidding, my friend. Now, I want to say that. So, Devin, you got in there I believe, a botany reference. I got in photosynthesis. Gunner, I believe you're the only one that hasn't filled out the flower bingo quite yet as the show goes on.
And I will not.
And you will not.
No.
All right. Going for it, let's get this out of the way as well. And I mentioned we know it's the Lions, but when you do look at this game, you can talk about the blitzing and the aggression when you talk about the defensive side of the football with Jonathan Gannon. You can talk about running the football when it comes to Nick Sirianni's play calling and how well they executed that as an offensive line as well. But what is something that you saw today that you want to see more of going forward? I mean, we all know, can't say it enough, it's the Lions. But when it comes to this particular game, there are things I think you could take away from this and apply it to what could happen later in the season. And I know they're not going to run the football 46 times again. I know you're not going to call upon Jalen Hurts to only have 7 carries in a game again while your running backs have a total of 37 runs, I believe it was in total. So I know you're not going to be doing that every single week. But I at least think you can look at this game and say, we've rediscovered Boston Scott. There's no reason he shouldn't be getting touches, especially while Miles Sanders is not in these games. Gunner, you said it yourself. You're talking about at least 2 more weeks where he's not going to be in, possibly more, depending on where he is with the ankle. So for me, the number one thing I'm taking away from this game is Boston Scott. There is no reason you shouldn't be using him going forward. Yes, even in your screen games, Nick Sirianni. And yes, of course, especially running between the tackles as just a member of this offense regularly like a running back should. So that, to me, is the number one thing I want to see taken away from this game and applying it later in the season. Boston Scott's usage. Gunner, what do you want to see from this game going forward?
Jonathan Gannon's defense take more chances in terms of bringing people down in the box, blitzing from different angles, giving a quarterback something to think about that they may not have seen on film. Whether it's a safety, whether it's an outside linebacker in the middle, send more people to the house. Trust your corners on an island a little bit more to go one-on-one with certain receivers. Because as we've seen in the past, when you've tried to sit back and let the play come to you, you've gotten chewed up. Because, you let a quarterback stand back there and hold the ball 4.5 seconds, eventually somebody's going to come free. I don't care how many people you have defending. You can have 3 on 7, 4 on 7. Somebody is going to come free in a scramble drill situation like that. And we've seen this defense just thoroughly chewed up in the past because of their inability to be more aggressive. Well, we saw this defense be a lot more aggressive in this particular game, and rightfully so, because Detroit was so handcuffed. Now, there's got to be certain elements of your attacking style defense compared to that defense that you've been playing for the previous 7 weeks that you can implement moving forward. And if you don't, shame on you, because you're going to have more results like the previous 7 or previous 5 of the 7, more so than what you have today. So you've got to find a way. When you look at the better defenses and even average defenses in the National Football League, they will blitz. They understand that this is an offensive-minded game. The game has now been structured to gear toward the offense, and damn the defense. You know, the way the rules have been changed nowadays for professional football. So what do the better offenses do? They attack the quarterback. They get him off the mark. They mess up the rhythm. You make him throw the ball sooner. Make him throw the ball in the dirt. You know, get a couple hits on him. Soften him up a little bit. Give him something to think about. You know, so that's what this defense needs to do more of when you start facing some of the better quarterbacks moving forward.
Devin, what do you want to say?
I agree with you, Gunn. On defense, committing to the blitz and Jonathan Gannon actually playing to his players' strengths. I don't know if that was a direct result of what Fletcher Cox said, or if maybe Fletcher Cox said something, Sirianni said something, even Howie and Jeffrey Lurie said something. I don't know. I love the change in game plan, and I hope that they stick to that. Getting to the quarterback, Josh Sweat obviously had an incredible game, and I know the Lions O-line stinks, but I think no matter what, we should try to do that a bit more. On the offensive side of the ball, I mean, you mentioned Boston Scott, obviously amazing game. I want to mention Jordan Howard. He's someone who I think was one of the biggest head scratches when he was placed on the practice squad back before the season started. And I know he's in because of injuries, but I have always thought that he should be a part of the roster. And I loved seeing what he could contribute to today's game. And then creative play calling. You know, you mentioned that I think it was like a flea flicker play where, and I liked seeing that. The run game, obviously taking advantage of Lions' weaknesses, but I want to see more of that because it didn't feel, like you said, forced and just so frustrating to watch, which it has been for the entire season up until now.
And have we not? I don't think we've seen jet sweeps, especially. I mean, Jalen Reagor ends up leaving because he's injured. But a couple of times early in this game, you're seeing the offense get going, not just with the run game, but you're actually seeing jet sweeps. I haven't really seen too many of them this season. And look, whatever gets you running the football, whatever brings the defense in a little bit so you can later set up the pass with the run, that whole thing. But Jonathan Gannon really, he impressed me the most in this particular game in terms of creativity. Excuse me, Nick Sirianni impressed me the most in terms of creativity. The most since week 1 against the Atlanta Falcons, where you saw a lot of different things emptied out of the playbook. And he came out after that game and said, hey, look, this is just the beginning. We're just getting started. We're just dipping our toes into our playbook. Well, it might have taken another 7 weeks to finally see something that was really impressive again from Jonathan Gannon, because you also saw that game against the Panthers, for instance, and you really didn't see them start to empty that playbook again until much later in that game, in the fourth quarter, really. This was a game from start to finish. Maybe not so much in the fourth quarter because they were starting to take their foot off the gas a little bit, but this was a game in particular that you saw them really be in control offensively and defensively speaking from jump, and seeing that type of creativity, seeing those jet sweeps integrated into the game plan, I thought was great because that was something they certainly had not put on film yet. And now it's something even without Jalen Reagor, for whatever could happen with him going forward, however much time he could miss. That's something you could do with a couple different wide receivers on this team, especially Quez Watkins, who we all love the speed of. So those are things we can look at right now with this Philadelphia Eagles team and say right there, not just against the Lions, but also next week against the Chargers and on down the line. Now, we're going to have our friend John McMullen join us from Detroit Rock City coming up in just a couple of minutes, a little bit later in the show. We'll talk to him about all the things that go on in the post-game press conferences, when the players speak as well, Nick Sirianni, what he wanted to do going into this game. And we're also going to talk about not necessarily bulletin board material as it pertains from one team to another, but maybe a fan base and media reacting to that of what a head coach had to say. We're going to get into that when we come back in a minute, but I do want to tell you, live post-game show is, of course, exclusively presented by Ocean Casino Resort. Go for the live show. Go for the win. More live post-game show when we return.